Good morning. I'm Caitlin with Wiregrass Daily News, and I'm here with Mr. Justice Black, who is running for School Board District 2.
Yes, ma'am. So nice to be with you this morning, Caitlin.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So, Justice, what is your vision for the school, city school, in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think we have a school system that is primed with potential right now, and we've got some tremendous educators and some even better students who have a lot of potential that they want to fulfill. And I think that my vision, albeit that it's not an individual vision, it's meant to be a collaborative um, effort amongst all the board members after this election in August to make sure that we're guiding from a strategic standpoint that allows us to truly act out our mission. I think that the strategic plan that they currently have is in alignment with what my individual vision for the school system would be, and that's the Dothan Way. I am proud to be a byproduct of Dothan City Schools, and I absolutely love Dothan. I'm holding my hands to my side because I get kind of passionate and stir up some, but ultimately,
Okay.
I believe that the Dothan Way is unique, and what we have to offer here as a system is something that could reflect our community, our values, and ultimately improve our city. I think better schools is a better Dothan. And there's a lot of different ways we're going to go about doing that. But ultimately, my view of the next 5 to 10 years is to see a resurgence and a revitalization in the investment in our school system so that we can prepare our students for the best possible future. So we can encourage them to contribute to the city that is going to pour into them, and in a system where our educators truly feel empowered. We say we want to empower everybody every day, and I think that I can bring a distinct skill set and vision that helps us to do that and follow that mission.
Yeah. How do you plan to ensure that students will receive a high quality education?
Well, I mean, we elect our board seats, or we're elected to our board seats based off of a precinct, but at the end of the day, we're servicing all of Dothan City Schools.
Right.
And for me individually, I think that my emergence as a young leader gives me a fresh, renewed energy to go at some of the problems that ultimately I think have just been stalemated by bureaucracy or the politicizing of the ultimate mission. And for me, purposefully, I want to be mission focused and action oriented. I think that there's a keen distinction between the school board governing and the system being allowed to operate. And what I plan to do to ensure that every student is getting the best opportunities is to remain transparent and vigilant as far as our accountability, but to work in not an overarching sense as a board, but in a collaborative partnership where there are clearly defined roles. And our school board is meant to govern in a way that allows all of our students to reap the rewards of our uh, effort as far as being prepared, being agile, staying ahead of the curve, and making sure that we are developing policies and procedures that fit the needs of our students as they progress. We don't want antiquated ideals or status quo to drive what it is that we do for our students and for our teachers. And my plan is to make sure that we're proposing innovative and progressive policy that allows them to do what they need to do to meet the needs that are unique for today.
What do you think the most important issues are that Dothan City schools are facing today, and how do you plan to address them?
I think you get a different answer with any and every parent or constituent. But for me personally, I think the biggest issue that we're facing is an opportunity for retention. And the reason I can classify that as the biggest for me is because it goes across the spectrum. It's the retention of our students. How do we compete with private schools that are in our area that uh, apparently are starting to appeal more to the parents who have the resources to be able to pull their kids out? When we lose students, it's not just a hit on our enrollment numbers or a concern about what the funding issuance will look like down the line. We're losing quality families.
Yeah.
We're losing individuals who are bright and intelligent and are part of our extracurricular activities, who lead in a way and have the potential to lead, and families who are tied into the school system as far as parent involvement, and who ultimately, I believe, want to see their students succeed in Dothan City Schools, but for one reason or another, have found themselves feeling like that wasn't the best possible place. So retention of students is our number one thing, and it's not that we want to compete in a commercialized fashion, but in a substantive one. We want to make sure that the substance of what our students are getting from Dothan City Schools is uniquely the Dothan way, so that they can feel confident in the outcomes. Retaining students means a better enrollment, means better allocations, and better opportunities for us to reach more students. Second to that, the retention of our teachers. We've got incredible educators who have been doing this for a long time, not just for the sake of doing it, but because they're passionate about doing it. And I've seen what I believe was the peak. Of course, I'm biased. Everybody thinks they're the best when they're going through it, but I've seen what I think the peak of educator retention looks like in Dothan City Schools, and that you have people who would be offered more money or less physical classroom days and wouldn't take it because they felt a part of something unique here in Dothan. And I think that that speaks to my personal development, which is part of the inspiration to run, and the professional element of what it means to stay competitive in the education is all behind the educators that are doing it every day. So we need to empower them in whatever way we can so that we keep our talent here, because it's the teachers who pour in and day out that make the difference. And if we're not doing everything that we can to foster an environment that attracts, recruits, but most importantly retains educators, then we're not doing our best effort to our students.
What steps will you take to ensure that all students have equal educational opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of public school system is just that it's meant to be able to service everybody in your city, and education ultimately is the great equalizer. It's what takes anybody from any background and gives them the exposures necessary. And that doesn't always mean traditional education is the equalizer. Sometimes it's vocational education, sometimes it's alternative means of instruction, but ultimately the opportunity to have access to knowledge and experience new things and an expansive view of our critical thinking is the goal for every student. And that's regardless of background. That's regardless of zip code. I understand that there are proponents of school choice and some other things, but ultimately, I think we're a better school system if no matter where you go within the Circle City, each and every one of those schools is performing well, and that's the difference in how we can get there. Directly, I think making sure that we have policies that are inclusive in nature, um, understanding that IEPs have to be met,
Yes.
that these students are not going to be able to fit under a standardized model alone. And having the right teachers, the right counselors, the right paraprofessionals in place to be able to do these assessments, create these plans in the way that we can execute them. And then our opportunity as a board is to better serve them by making sure that the policies don't restrict them, but give them the chance to really do what they need to do.
How do you plan to help students who may face challenges due to learning disabilities or language barriers
Mhm.
or poverty?
Yeah. So to all of those points, I think unpacking the last to the first, poverty is a big one about accessibility. And, ultimately, we have to wage a war on poverty and not a war on poor people. And it's not always that we're supplying their needs and they're just benefiting from the system, but it's that we have an obligation to make sure that again this equalizer of education is accessible. So the way to ensure that is to make sure that we are taking advantage of all of the technological elements that we have at play. I know with the Focus Act, we've taken personal electronics out of the way, but that doesn't mean that we're not still a 21st century education system. And that means making sure that the utilization of tools through apps and the different multimedia delivery systems to help those who have different needs, niches, or learn in a certain way is our way to make sure that we're equipped with everything that's necessary. I wholeheartedly believe in the quality of our special educators and their individual care for all of the students. And I mentioned IEPs, and we have some psychological individuals that work in our school system as well that help develop these. And I think it's just about staying on the cutting edge of the science and the data behind how do we need to approach it, so that everybody gets a fair chance as an opportunity. I think it's also very important that we integrate them into general education studies as well. When we talk about equity and inclusion, it's not just about access, but again, exposure and to be able to migrate amongst their peers is another way that we continue to help produce growth and development. And I think that there are a lot of different ways that we can approach that. From an operational standpoint, though, I would hope that when we do find our next superintendent, that they make it a priority and can just continue to report to the board directly, and we respond in whatever way necessary if we need to adjust.
So, as you were just saying, inclusion, how do you plan to promote diversity and inclusion within the school system?
You know, diversity and inclusion isn't just about race. It's about diversity of thought, diversity of exposure, diversity of ideals. And while we exist in a conservative electorate, I do feel like we understand the value of perspective. And, you know, we don't want to incubate our children in a way under the guise of safety that we don't expose them in a controlled way to the things that are going to be in this global world that they're preparing for. Right. Ultimately, globalization and the fact that it's so much easier to connect in different means, and that the way our businesses have moved to a more global function, it's necessary that we don't just give our students the exposure to Dothan and how we do things here. And albeit I don't want to be contradictory to my point about retention being a focus, because I do want them to see the value in Dothan alone and want to bring their talents back and contribute to this society. I think it's important that different language exposures, different cultural exposures, being a part of the education experience is a duty of ours as well. And you know, again, I won't get too deep into operations and curriculum development and things like that. You know, we're meant to govern, not to operate. But I will say that I, from a personal standpoint, have always been a voice to that and will continue to be a voice to that, because as we integrate in spaces, we find that we have more in common than we do not. And again, there's just a tremendous value in a controlled exposure for our students to be able to be prepared for a global economy.
How do you plan to improve student achievement, especially in areas where performance may be lagging?
Through partnership, through a different level of understanding from experience. And, you know, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be in the classroom every day, but having a direct line to the individuals who are, and understanding the student need versus the educator capacity or capability. And I don't mean that in the sense of, are they capable of teaching, or do they have the capacity to help them achieve certain things? But more so, do they have the capacity to operate in trust? Do they feel empowered to actually do their job? Have we given them the right to, within reasonable autonomy, adjust the classroom setting to get the largest result of progress? And so how I plan to influence those academic achievements and the places that they're lacking is to really just act out the mission to empower them. You know, to empower doesn't mean to micromanage or to oversee. It's to really give them what they need to feel confident in operating in their autonomy. And I think that our educators have done more than enough to prove themselves, and have done more than enough in the form of demonstration of care, and have met metrics and have beat standardized goals. And so we should be able to trust them to identify the needs of the students that they're spending the most time with, and be able to adjust and be agile in what they need.
What strategies do you plan to implement to prepare students for secondary education or the workforce?
Yeah, I think when we talk about achievement gaps and outcomes, we want to make sure that we're not just graduating students, but that we're preparing members of society. And, you know, to attend the graduation this past week is inspiring, in that it's the peak of this whole matriculation process. But as far as implementing strategies to make sure that they're prepared, it starts early on. And for me personally, I think that improved relationships between our city municipal government, our Chamber of Commerce, our small business community. I think they're ready, willing, and waiting to partner with us and be a part of this system and have a true presence in our schools. And I want to be able to use the connections and network that I have to build that as a board member. In doing so, I think we open up the door to more exposure to industry, more opportunities for internship, externship, partnership, and a pathway to employment. There's a shortage in a lot of fields, construction especially, where we can generate a pathway for all of our students to leave with a skill, a diploma, and a trade. And I just applaud the efforts of the Dothan Technology Center so far up to this point, and I think it's just something that we can continue to grow. As far as the traditional model and getting into 4-year universities and preparing those who are academically gifted to go into that field of thought. Like I said, it's more about developing their critical thinking as well as meeting the academic standards. And I think that comes with again some more creative exposures. How do we get them in touch with messages that resonate with them as far as preparing them for the future? And ultimately, our obligation to them is to just simply make a way, give them that pathway to success, and let them choose which direction they want to go.
How do you plan to support and monitor performance and achievement, especially when measures fall short?
Yeah. So accountability isn't about looking for something wrong. It's just about making sure that you're self aware. And as a board, I think having routine non-state regulated audits of our academic performance is how we can truly improve. I think it's not necessarily about pointing at the specific deficits, but instead changing our viewpoint on the standard. And if we really want to talk about the Dothan way, then we need to set our own standard. Now, of course, it'll be in compliance with everything that we have to do from a state perspective, but we set our own goals, and we can exceed them. And when we're not meeting the mark, having constant, gentle pieces of accessibility that allow us to monitor performance in real time is how we can improve that. There's too much technology, there's too much data that we should be evaluating on an annual basis, because sometimes it's the mid semester push that needs a change, and sometimes it's being able to operate in a policy that's not so restrictive or stringent, and that you don't feel like you can take the necessary turn to improve the metrics. So increasing our utilization of live metrics on probably more of a semester base would be my initial strategy. I want to be an informed representative of our constituents, and if we don't have consistent measures to talk about how we are taking all of these goals and objectives and turning them into key performance indicators, then we can't expect to be successful. You can only manage what you can measure. And I think that there's a unique opportunity for us to get more information out as to how our students are performing throughout the school year as opposed to just end over year.
How do you plan to support teachers in the classroom?
I think I'm going to let them tell me how to do it. Yeah, I don't have the experience firsthand of being an educator, and I don't even want to potentially diminish exactly how much work that they're doing. But my plan is to be present. My plan is to be accessible, and the plan is to be transparent. I want to not just empower our teachers as far as making sure that their schools have resources and that their students are safe and that we're taking care of the things that have to be taken care of. I want us to go the extra mile in creating a culture through governance that allows our teachers to feel taken care of and valued. They're not dispensable. They're not just another individual that contributes to a bottom line and are disposed of based off of just that fiscal value. They bring to the table not just their education, but their experiences. And my plan is to do whatever I can to generate a culture and to help maintain an operational experience by partnering with our superintendents and administrators so that teachers feel valued and that they're taken care of, and that it's not just a job. but that they have support from the top down, and that we can create a culture that reinvigorates their passion for education.
How will you advocate for additional funding for Dothan City Schools?
I'm extremely happy with what we are allocating as far as the state government level with the Education Trust Fund, but I know that there's always going to be a need for more. And advocating to um, private partnerships and foundations and other means of income to fund special projects or some of the things that we may already have some dollars allocated to, but we really want to make a focus for progress is what I believe part of the responsibility of the board is to do, is to advocate. They're meant to be not just the voices of representation, but to also be the ones that are the hands and feet of the school system in reaching out to give positive publicity. And I think that I've got a network that allows us to do that, and we can pull on some resources from private sources that I think can help contribute to our growth. I do think that uh, having transparency and making sure that all of the expenditures that we do have from a budgetary standpoint are all tied back to some form of student success and education is the way that we do that. So it's a combination of fiscal responsibility with our budget and with the public sources that we have, and then also advocating for how to improve our school system with private contributions as well, whether that be grants or fellowships or whatever we can do in partnering with others to bring more resources to the city.
How do you plan to ensure safety for all students and staff within the school?
I think that we have a tremendous team of SRO officers that are already doing that on a day-to-day basis, in large part because of what I've seen firsthand in that our SROs are community policing. Their presence isn't necessarily meant to police our students or anything else. Of course, their primary concern and focus is safety from external threats, but they know the students' names. They know their stories. They care about what they care about, and make it a mission to have that connectivity. And what that allows us to do is create a safer environment through familiarity. And so that in the event that there ever is an escalated incident or an isolated threat, it doesn't catch them by surprise. DPD and the SRO team has created an environment that I think all students feel safe, all teachers feel safe. But we can always continue to stay vigilant in that front and make sure that they have what they need, and make sure that the partnership with the police department is fluid, and you prepare for what you hope is a day that you'll never have to encounter. And I believe that safety is one of the top priorities as far as just no discussion, no questions, bare bone. This is what we have to make sure we're accounting for. And I'm extremely excited to be able to work on the board with our SROs and meet whatever needs that they think is necessary to stay alert and prepared and agile to any type of threat. Beyond that, I think maintaining policies that are comprehensive in understanding the safety element and risk when we talk about how to go about operating our system in relation to something that parents feel comfortable with, as well as the teachers and the students. So safety is a priority, but I feel like it's definitely not one that we are lacking because of how in depth the relationships have been with the SROs in all of our schools.
How do you plan to address bullying and create a positive environment?
I think it's it, innately conflict will happen amongst our students. And when we talk about holistic education, I think that um, having things built into um, partnership or in addition to the scholastic and academic curriculum, helping with education of emotional intelligence and promoting diversity, not for the sake of diversity, but for the sake of inclusion and understanding that, albeit that we may have some differences, um, that we're part of this thing together. And I think one of the biggest ways that we combat that is by, again, focusing on community feel. I won't speak to the consolidation efforts and all the things that went into that because I wasn't a part of it. But What I will say is that what's come out of it is that some of our students aren't in schools that are necessarily relatively close to them. So we have to now manufacture a sense of community amongst our students. And it starts with, of course, us as the adults leading the way and being the example and being collaborative in a lot of ways. But by building a school system that really feels encapsulated in one communal strength, um, because then you start to see your classmates as, if not friends, at least cordial collaborators in what it is to make Hidden Lake the best Hidden Lake, to make Selma Street the best Selma Street, to make DPA the best DPA, and to feel a part of something. I won't say that there's not a bullying issue, because there definitely will always be incidents. But I attended the honors day at Dothan High School and presented a scholarship. And one of the things that was most fascinating to me was as they read off uh, all of the scholarships that some of the students were receiving and the marks that they were getting and the chords and everything else that went into the circumstance of the program. The students cheered more loudly for each other than even some of the proudest parents. And so I think they already have a foundation of that. You see the glimpses of it, but um, just having policies that have a zero tolerance, but at the same time are not so cutthroat that there's not consideration of all means. Because normally there's something else contributing to a bullying situation.
Right.
And we want to see the intrinsic value of all of our students and be able to address those on individual basis with full consideration, while still having policy that allows educators and administrators to be tough on bullying and make sure that they can work with parents to rectify those situations as quickly as they can.
How will you plan to engage the local community and parents in the educational process?
Yeah, it's a thing where you just got to show up and being half the battle. So being accessible and showing up to the spaces where our parents are, getting a little bit outside of the box as far as making our school board meetings more accessible and transparent and easy to participate in, without getting lost in the minutia of Robert's Rules of Order. Of course, we want to maintain order, but um, not just asking them to meet us where we're at, but to go to them and um, really give forum to the needs, whether that be electronically or in person. As far as partnering with our community, I stay as civically engaged as I can. I try to participate in as much as I can, but there's only so many hours in the day. But ultimately, part of just loving Dothan and being an active part of this community's growth allows me the opportunity to network in a way that's very natural, and that all I do is talk about what I'm passionate about, and that's how do we make Dothan better and make it a place where people want to stay and retain our talent and not see the best and brightest go off to colleges and universities in other cities and believe that they can't come back to Dothan and build a life. So all I do is talk about those things amongst our community, and naturally, like-minded individuals present themselves at the forefront and say, "How can I help? How can I help? Whatever you need." Even since announcing this campaign, it's been an overwhelmingly positive um, response from the community, and none of it's just been on the surface of "we hope you get it," but more so we want to do everything we can to help our schools, and we think that you'd be good to do it. So the community partnerships are prime for us to take advantage of in a way that allows our students to benefit.
What is your plan for improving services and support for students with special needs?
Uh, uh, Resources are at the center of that conversation. And I think personnel has to be a consideration for that conversation. When we talk about individuals with special needs, we need to make sure that our staff is trained and on the cutting edge of what it is to stay relatively agile and meeting those needs in non-traditional ways. And then beyond that, making sure that we have different modes of delivery for them to be able to utilize. Um, our children with special needs cannot be discriminated against, and that as a part of the state legislation around it, developing those IEPs and then making sure that they have the resources. So um, sometimes that means extra instruction. That means extra professionals, paraprofessionals, support teachers, whatever it takes. That's why I think the personnel consideration is a part of that as well. But ultimately, it's our responsibility to take care of every student.
What is your plan to address the condition of school facilities, including maintenance and upgrades?
I think that we need a comprehensive assessment. I think that there's some properties that the school currently has that are being underutilized, maybe. And I've heard some things from different parents and teachers about the needs at some specific locations. I think we just need to get in and check them out. We've got a great facilities team and maintenance staff at central office, but sometimes the scope of what those repairs need to look like might be outside of them and come to the school board, and that's where we want to make sure that we're utilizing our public-private partnerships to do the best we can while still being fiscally responsible to make sure that we have facilities that we can be proud of. I mean, to the point of the safety question that you talked about earlier, safety is of the utmost important, and strong infrastructure and facilities allows us to feel confident in the safety of our schools. I mean, a prime example being DPA during the recent tornado. If we don't have facilities that we can feel confident in when it comes to natural disasters or any other type of weatherization, then we're not really doing everything we can to make sure our students are safe. So facilities that are not just neat, clean, and organized, but also structurally sound is a huge priority. And I want to make sure that we are taking a full inventory and account of all of our schools and our buildings and making sure that we are modernizing them as well. With wanting to be a school system of choice, you want to be attractive in more ways than one. And of course, it begins with the substance of what's in the building, but then second to that is the building itself. And I think we've seen some great, investments in our facilities with the new field house at Dothan High School, and of course the updates to RipU Stadium and the home of the Wolves and all these other great things. But there are still some other opportunities that we have that we can be a little bit better. And I think cultivating more space for the arts and really again modernizing the view of some of the externals of our buildings could be maybe a possible project down the line, but more importantly, just making sure that they're safe and secure.
How will you ensure transparency and decision making within the Board of Education?
I think simplifying some of the processes is the first way to be more accessible, in that people don't have to feel intimidated by not understanding these terms and processes. And while we've got some great articulate and educated individuals on our school board, just speaking in plain language to the people, both during our meetings and when we're just in the community, is the best way to maintain transparency, because essentially we need to allow them to feel like they can come to us with anything. And the measure of our accountability of success to them and to our constituents is rooted in the information that they get from what we're doing and how we're acting. So just opening the floor discussions post vote is an easy way to increase transparency. Hey, motion is set for this. During that part where we say discussion, let's actually have the discussion in a way that informs our people who are in attendance and inform our media who do the coverage for it. Very simply, what exactly is going on, so that it opens up a floor for questions and dialogue, and that we're not just speeding through an agenda and not giving any context per se. So not just in how we're governing, but then partnering with the communications team at Dothan City Schools to make sure that it's reflective of what the board has going on. Our primary focus and should maintain primary focus is highlighting our student success. But again, using all of our means as avenues to information for parents and teachers to all feel a part of the process.
How will you ensure that the board is or remains held accountable to the public?
I think staying in the forefront of the information, as opposed to operating and then kind of retreating. We want to make sure that if there are major changes, that it is the business of our parents, it is the business of our teachers, it's the business of our community, because it's affecting everyone in some way, form, or fashion. And I just stand on personal integrity and honesty and transparency that I'll make sure that I am a loud and vocal voice as to what's going on with our school board and keeping our constituents informed, not just in District 2, but throughout the city.
How do you plan to handle conflicts of interest or disagreements within the board?
So conflicts of interest is very simple recusal. If there's a whiff of an ethical violation by me participating in something or promoting something, I'll be sure to remove myself, and I trust that the other board members will be able to come to a fair and equitable decision. Beyond that, I anticipate, welcome, and expect disagreement, but it's our responsibility to do so civilly in a just and order manner because. Um, Conflict is healthy. It generates more ideas. It gives us an opportunity to see different perspectives, and I think it makes us better for having it. So, as far as how I anticipate to deal with it, is just stay as amenable as I can be. I usually try not to get too high or too low, and I can disagree with you without being disagreeable. And I think developing positive working relationships with any of and all of my colleagues on the board is a priority in the initial first phase so that we can govern in a way that's cohesive.
What role do you see for technology in enhancing education within Dothan City schools?
I think it's going to be a major proponent of our education system going forward because of just the shift of technology in most industries. I think it's incredibly important that they have exposure, whether that's through a vocational training program or through different engagements with some of the resources that we have in the community. I think, from my perspective, seeing the Wiregrass Innovation Center become a part of downtown Dothan and the continued partnership because they're already in our schools doing agricultural based things, um, incorporating the entrepreneurs that they continue to recruit to Dothan and giving exposure to the ag tech side of what we see speaks to how even the agricultural focus and heritage of our city has moved into a modernization approach. And having our students have access to the technologies that they'll anticipate seeing in this workforce is a part of preparing them for success and part of preparing for our industries a cohort of prepared individuals because they've seen the technology. I think it'll be easy to do because this generation has grown up with the technology. It's innately a part of their experience, and I think that making sure that the exposures to software and having access to um, hardware that is modern and that is keeping up with the ever expanding and updating industry is a way that we can help our students stay on the cutting edge of technology. More specifically, I am a huge fan of STEM and what we can do in integrating that technology into our STEM focuses and classes is another way that they'll have just more access, and hopefully it increases their capacity to learn.
How will you ensure that every student has access to technology?
So, when we talk about dissemination of funds to each of the schools, making sure that we're earmarking comparable amounts for that technology and that investment in that resource, and it just comes by doing full evaluations on comparable statistics and coming up with a model that works that every one of our schools has access to those resources, and it's not that anyone feels like they missed out because they didn't attend a certain school.
Why are you running for Dothan City School Board District 2, and what personal and professional experience do you believe has prepared you for the role?
Yeah. Ultimately, my why is that I want to serve this city as much as I can, however I can, because it's home. It's what poured into me, and I'm not a finished product, but I contribute the vast majority of who I am to the city that made me, and I'm passionate about increasing every facet of life here, so that the natives of Dothan and anybody willing to make this their new home can be proud of what it means to be from Dothan. And I think that the investment in that future begins in our schools. And better schools means better Dothan, and a Dothan that we can be proud of, not just from the perspective of what we've known, but what we know we can be. And personally, when it comes to Dothan City Schools, I'm a proud product and know exactly what the potential of it can generate. And it's not just my individual successes, but the shared successes of my classmates and this community and the folks who I've grown up with. And I know that we can do that for every following generation if we build a governing body that has the future in mind and leads from a perspective of constant improvement. I think that I bring, as far as a skill set, a relentless pursuit of progress. I know that everything won't be fixed in a day, but I luxuriate in the opportunity to wake up every morning and do something for this community. I'm blessed that I get to do it in my day-to-day work as the director of grants and homelessness at Dothan Housing, and that I'm serving some of those who don't have a voice or who are the least considered or thrown away. And that heart for service is going to be mimicked in the school board seat and in everything that I do because I just love this city. And from the perspective of professional experience, developing policies, building comprehensive cultures, and leading from a place that understands that it's not about being in charge, but taking care of those in your charge, is what I've been able to do in my professional career in hospitality and in nonprofit management. And I've been fortunate to operate as a unifier of sorts in a lot of ways in my professional career, in that we can take what may appear to be disdain and disconnect and rejuvenate it into collaborative strategies. And it comes from the human element of understanding people in business. And ultimately, our school board is a business that operates with a really large budget and a whole lot of people depending on it from a personnel standpoint. So, bringing that unique perspective, albeit that I'm not experienced in the operation of education, I am experienced in the spirit of governance. And albeit this is my first campaign for an elected position, I've served on several boards and know that I can bring a unique perspective. I may not have the educational experience background that some won't, but I do have the experience and background that our board needs right now. And, part of making change is just being willing to step up. And I've been encouraged by a lot of individuals, but it wasn't until I felt the distinct call myself that I knew this was going to be my best way to contribute going forward, as far as doing everything that I can to support and help our city grow and progress.
And I just have one more question. How will your leadership style contribute to the overall success of Dothan City Schools?
I think my leadership style was shaped by Dothan City Schools, and I think it's a leadership style that'll be embraced by our current administration and teachers and students. They know that it's a leadership that that cares about the value of every individual involved, and leadership isn't just leading from the sake of charging and commanding others, but joining and pushing forward our goals from the front. And my leadership style is very active and hands-on, and that I want to hear the stories, I want to see the people, I want to be in touch, so that, again, as a board, I hope we can lead from the front, be the public relations, the human resources, and the governing body that stands with our educators and for our students, and are in the weeds with them ultimately. Not so much so that we cross our distinct assignments, but so much so that they inevitably overlap in the decision making process. Because leadership is it comes with a cost, and that cost of leadership is expectation of outcome. And my leadership style is very very competitive in nature as well, in that I want to compete with ourselves so that we generate the best version of Dothan City Schools, not just with external sources. And in that competition with self and in leadership from a sake of progression, that means every day you got to show up and see how you can improve. And I'm ready, willing, and able to do that with the city of Dothan.
Well, thank you so much, Justice, for stopping by, and good luck on your election.
Thank you so much for having me. It truly was a pleasure.
Thank you.